This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Healthy Happens Here webinar series. We're going to give it just another minute as I see a few more folks are joining us. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, so good afternoon. Welcome to the Healthy Happens Here webinar series. This is a series of virtual webinars that cover a variety of health topics, including nutrition, mental health, tobacco cessation, and chronic disease self-management. We thank you all for being here today with us. My name is Candace Schottenlohr, and I am a health educator with the Community Engagement Team here in the Office of Community Health and Planning with the Florida Department of Health in Miami-Dade County. Welcome. So I just wanted to share a few housekeeping items before we begin. Please know that you have the capability to have your camera on or off and the ability to mute and unmute your microphones. Please remember while you are not speaking to keep yourself muted just to reduce any background or echo. And again, if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, please add them to the chat box on the right side of your screen and we'll go ahead and monitor those. And in addition, there will be a Q&A session with our presenter immediately following the presentation. And so throughout the presentation, please feel free to enter any of those questions you may have in the chat box, and we'll address as many as possible during the Q&A session. And so today's event is called Stress Management, and we want to thank you for joining us today. We've all experienced some levels of stress in our lives. And so, did you know that a vast majority of health problems are caused or influenced by stress? And so, during today's presentation, you will learn how stress affects your body and gain effective stress management techniques that garner resiliency and develop greater coping skills. And so, I would now like to introduce our speaker for today, Natushka Murray. Our presenter, Natushka Murray, is passionate about taking a holistic and preventive health approach when educating and bringing awareness to the community. She is a certified community health worker and currently works for the Florida Department of Health in Miami-Dade County, the Office of Community Health and Planning, serving as a health services representative with the CHAT team, also known as the Community Health Action Team. With a hands-on approach to helping her community, she believes in the motto, "Many hands make light work." Her passion and contributions lead to a continued approach of promoting chronic disease prevention. I will now turn it over to Natushka Murray to get us started.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry for the delay. I was having some technical difficulties. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So thank you once again, and thank you for joining us today as we review the topic of stress management. As mentioned, my name is Natushka Murray, and I am a health services representative for the Community Health Action Team of the Florida Department of Health in Miami-Dade County. Just to give you a little background, the Community Health Action Team, also known as CHAT, consists of nurses, community health workers, health services representatives, and a health educator. The team's overall goal is lowering the incidence of chronic disease and obesity by raising awareness of proper nutrition and a healthy lifestyle. Today, we will be talking about a very important topic, stress. Stress affects all of us. You might be belonging to any age group, living in any part of the world or country, coming from all different backgrounds and cultures, and we have one thing in common. We all experience stress. Stress is a part of our lives. Today, during this presentation, we will view ways on how to better manage the stress in our lives. So let's get started with today's presentation. Are you stressed? So this is the first question I have for you today. I'm not sure if you have access to the chat, but feel free to respond if you do. Are you stressed? Don't be shy. All right. Awesome. And let's see if we can get another response. Thank you. Thank you, Mammy. Thank you, Melissa. Yes, I too, of course. Like I said, I believe we all have this in common. And if you responded yes to any of these questions, I want you to tell me how you are stressed. What are some of the signs? I see sometimes you are stressed. Yep, same here. Shoulder pain, tension, lack of sleep. Awesome. These are very good responses. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, we have all dealt with stress at some point in our lives. So, thank you so much for answering. So, most of us are familiar with how stress feels, right? Stress affects people differently. You will hear me mention that a few times over the course of this presentation. Stress can have emotional or physical effects, or even both. Some emotional signs of stress are worry, anger, irritability, depression, and inability to focus. For example, you have had a stressful day at work or at school. And suppose you have children at home, and now you must help them with last minute projects that they forgot that they had due. Now you are not only dealing with the stress from your day, but also this new short-term stress um, is presenting itself. So there is a possibility that you might show the signs of irritability or worry. Stress also has physical signs such as headaches, under or oversleeping, um, digestive problems, weight gain or weight loss, tensions, and getting colds more frequently. Again, everyone responds differently to stress. So being aware of how you specifically respond, pardon me, how you specifically react to stress will provide you tools with how to better manage your stress. So let's delve into understanding what stress is. To put it simply, stress is the physical and emotional response to the demands or changes. It is how our body and our minds react to these demands. However, stress is not always a negative thing. For example, just a little stress or just enough stress before an exam is helpful because it gives you that motivation to study beforehand and prepare. Or let's say you are in traffic and you all of a sudden have to become a defensive driver and react quickly to avoid a crash. That quick reaction to stress helps you. And when situations like this happen, you can really feel your body's reaction to stress. So, in dangerous situations, stress signals the body to prepare to face a threat or flee to safety. In these situations, your pulse quickens, you breathe faster, your muscles tense, and your brain uses more oxygen and increases activity. These are all functions aimed at survival and in stress and in response to stress. In non-life threatening situations, stress can motivate people, such as if they need to take a test or interview for a new job. So in these situations, a little stress can be helpful, right? Stress is an important part of our life, and I hope that after this presentation, you will learn how to allow non-threatening stress motivate you to take action while better understanding how to remove some of the things that are causing negative stress to increase in your lives. So stress can be short-term, also known as acute stress, or it can also be known as long-term, which is also known as chronic stress. Short-term or acute stress goes away quickly. An example of short-term stress is the feeling you get when you slam on the brakes, have a fight with your partner, or ski down a steep slope. As mentioned, it helps you manage dangerous situations. It also occurs when you do something new or exciting. A lot of people have short-term stress at one point of time or another. Long-term or chronic stress is stress that lasts for a longer period of time. You may have chronic stress if you have money problems, an unhappy marriage, trouble at work, any types of stress that goes on for weeks or months is long-term stress. Often people with chronic stress try to manage it with unhealthy behaviors. And some of these behaviors include drinking alcohol too much or too often, gambling, overeating or developing an eating disorder, participating compulsively in sex, shopping or internet browsing, smoking, and using drugs. And also, I want to point out that it's also an interesting fact that you can become so used to chronic stress that you don't realize it is a problem. And unfortunately, if you don't find ways to manage your stress, it may lead to health problems. So, why do we stress out? We have two major reasons. The first one is that we perceive a situation as dangerous, difficult, or painful, or we don't believe we have the resources to cope. Stress can be caused, like we mentioned, by internal and external stressors. I find this to be important because understanding the root cause of your stress can help you be proactive in managing your stress. Take time to think and evaluate what is bothering you and do something about it. These are all internal causes of stress. Okay. When we perceive a situation as dangerous or too difficult, or we believe, we don't have the resource to cope, these are all internal. Okay. Internal emotions, internal stresses. Now, internal stressors include our feelings and our expectations. External stresses, though, they arise from the environment and events taking place around us. It is also important to ask yourself when identifying your stressors if it is the actual stressor that is affecting you, or maybe a combination of the stressors and some behaviors you can improve on. Let's look at some examples. So, time. This is a very common stressor. You have work, papers, projects due. You may have appointments to get to and to get to a certain place. Maybe you must get an item to someone, give money to someone by a certain time. Many people have a longer to-do list than they have hours in the day. As I mentioned before, regarding stress management, self-reflection is also very important. So noticing not only your stress levels, but also any patterns will assist. Okay. Our next one is traffic. So traffic, this is another common stressor. I'm sure we all can relate, especially here in South Florida. Okay. Maybe you have a presentation, or you are too, you're not too comfortable with public speaking. Okay. Disagreements can also be a cause of stress, whether it is with your partner or friends. Not seeing eye to eye can often cause stress. And of course, we have here work problems. Problems at work is another common one. Maybe you are having a disagreement with your boss or colleague, or maybe there are new deadlines and that you're having trouble to meet, or maybe you have new company policies, excuse me, you don't necessarily agree with. And the last one we have here is problems at home. So as you can see in this picture, um, you see a mom with her daughters, and maybe she's already had a stressful day at work, and now she has to deal with added stresses at home. We'll go ahead and continue and look at some other common stressors. We have finances here, or money. This includes paying off debts or saving for a car or a home. Another perspective on this is, if you are stressed about finances, begin looking at behaviors that can help improve your stress levels. Maybe you haven't set up a monthly budget, or you're having issues sticking to it. There are some factors you can address which can help alleviate some of that stress. Buying a new house. Now, buying a house is usually a positive event, yet it can still be a stressor. Finding the right house takes time. Finding a realtor, saving money, and all the paperwork that comes with it can be stressful, although it's very exciting. Illness can cause stress as well. Whether we are ill ourselves or if we are taking care of a loved one, this is one of the stressors that can be short term or long term. A growing family is another exciting event. However, this also brings along many stressors, and not to mention lots of planning. Next, there's marriage or divorce, or even just beginning or ending a romantic relationship. It can be a positive experience welcoming someone new into your life, but also difficult as you learn to adjust to your differences. And last but not least, we have a new job. Although it may be exciting and gratifying, specifically if you have worked very hard for a new position, um, your new job may come with new responsibilities. You have to learn new skills and adjust to a new schedule. Of course, these are not all the causes of stress. There are many stressors, and we will experience some of them from time to time, and they may overlap. But like I mentioned, each one responds to stress differently. What stresses me out may not bother you at all. So it's very important to take time to reflect. All right. Now we're going to discuss long-term health effects of stress on the body. Okay. So long-term stress or chronic stress can be very detrimental for your health and can contribute to or worsen your health problems. Coping with the impact of chronic stress can be challenging because the source of long term stress is more constant than acute stress. The body never receives a clear signal to return to normal functioning. Remember, it's not a load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. Okay, and I'll repeat that again. It's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you're carrying it. So when you're carrying long-term stress for a very, a period of time, it will begin affecting your body. So with chronic stress, those same life-saving reactions can disturb your immune system and cause digestive problems. It can also affect your sleep cycle and disturb your reproductive system. Many people feel the effects of stress in their stomach, so you have digestive issues, or you also feel headaches, you can get sad, angry, or irritable. Over time, chronic stress can also contribute to serious diseases such as heart disease, high blood pressure, mental health disorders such as anxiety, irritability, depression, and panic attacks. Hmm. So now that we've reviewed what stress is, excuse me, the causes of stress, and some of the long term effects of stress, let's review some of the ways that we can help manage stress. We are going to go over some practical ways and steps that you can take to deal with stress in a positive way. It is so important to learn more about how you experience stress, what your main stressors are. Okay. You can also ask yourself if any of the behaviors are contributing to your stress. And finally, you can learn ways to manage stress that work for you. The first tip is time management. Time management is a good idea to have, okay? You want to. It's a good idea to set aside some time to organize your schedules, relax, and pursue your own interest. Remember, good time management enables you to work smarter, not harder, so that you can get more done in less time, reducing your stress levels, and especially reducing your stress levels when the time is tight and pressures are high. There are many tools you can use to improve time management. Much of our stress could be relieved or reduced if we just had a little more time. And you can find this time and sometimes the time that you thought you had by thinking ahead is exactly how you want to move forward. So you want to plan, pardon me, you want to plan before, you know, you want to plan your day accordingly and use your time wisely. Some great tips that I can offer you when it comes to effective time management is to set your goals correctly. You want to set goals that are achievable and measurable. You want to prioritize wisely. You want to prioritize tasks based on importance and urgency. You want to set time limits to complete tasks and also be sure to take breaks between your tasks. You also want to organize yourself. Remove the clutter by removing non essential tasks or activities. All of these tips will help you create better time management skills. Now, the next step is to prepare. As the saying goes, your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. Prepare yourself for what's ahead. Being prepared will greatly reduce your stress. Try using routines to reduce stress, such as planning meals, organizing chores, and using a to do list. Being prepared and organized will help prevent uncomfortable situations that cause stress. Not being able to find your keys or rushing to meet a deadline because you underestimated the amount of time you needed are all preventable if you plan and organize ahead of time. The next and most common thing that comes to mind when discussing stress management is to practice relaxation techniques. Before we review some of these tips, remember that these are not one size fits all, okay? Just like stress doesn't affect everyone the same way, these tips may help, these tips may be helpful to some, but not so much to others. Some common relaxation techniques include deep breathing and meditation. And I also, while we're discussing deep breathing and meditation, a great Chinese proverb to think about when meditating is tension is who you think you should be, relaxation is who you are. This can also help with, some of those internal stressors that we have. Other tips include soothing stretches, tensing and relaxing, finding a sanctuary, using music, and seeing humor in your life. All right. Now, practicing self care, such as recognizing and accepting your emotional state and forgiving yourself, is also some great relaxation, some great techniques as well. Okay. If you practice self care and, you learn to forgive yourself if needed, this will this will help with your stress. Okay, this will allow you to detect if some of the rooted negative stresses in your life come from unhealthy emotions or negative self-beliefs. Additional steps to practicing self love include exercising, eating right, and getting enough sleep. These tips can help you relax and can help clear your mind. And remember to prepare and set a schedule for your relaxation exercises to make sure that you practice them regularly. The next tip is to stay physically active. Physical activity can help boost your mood and improve your health. It can also help you prevent and manage stress. The physical activity recommendation for adults is 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity aerobic activity. This is 2.5 hours a week. You can try going for a bike ride or taking a walk. Strengthening activities like push ups or lifting weights should be done at least 2 days a week. You want to find an activity or activities that you enjoy so that you can stick to your routine. Remember that although these are all recommendations, any amount of physical activity is better than none. So get a hobby, discover something new about yourself. Another important aspect of stress management is to eat healthy. And learning how to choose healthy foods will contribute to your overall well being. The Community Health Action Team here at the Department of Health in Miami-Dade County teaches nutrition based on Choose My Plate. This is a great resource to help you learn how to eat healthier and make better food choices. The USDA developed My Plate to make your selection of appropriate foods easier. You can visit the website by going to www.choosemyplate.gov. My Plate recommends eating a variety of fruits, vegetables, grains, protein foods, and dairy or fortified soy alternatives. When deciding what to eat or drink, choose options that are full of nutrients and limited in added sugars, saturated fat, and sodium. You can consider starting with these tips. First, try making half of your plate with fruits and vegetables. So, when focusing on whole fruits, try to include fruits at breakfast. You can top whole grain cereal with your favorite fruit, add berries to pancakes, or mix dried food into hot oatmeal. Smoothies are also a great way to incorporate whole fruits into your day. You also want to vary your veggies. Cook a variety of colorful veggies. And you can make extra vegetables and save some for later. Use them for a stew, soup, or a pasta dish. For proteins, try varying your routine. Try adding a new lean protein you don't normally eat, like shrimp, beans, chicken, or beef. Combine your favorite veggies and protein foods for a nutritious meal. Make half of your grains whole grains. Add brown rice to your stir fry dishes. Try switching to whole grain flour when you bake or cook. You can also try switching to whole grain bread. For the dairy group, move to low fat or fat free dairy milk or yogurt, a lactose free dairy or fortified soy version. Enjoy a yogurt parfait for breakfast made with low fat or fat free yogurt. Top the fruit with you can top your fruit with nuts to give it more um, food groups and fruits and proteins. Drink and eat less sodium, less saturated fat, and less added sugars. Cook at home more often to limit added sugars, saturated fat, and sodiums. It's also important to read the ingredient list and use the nutrition fact label to compare foods. Finally, our last tip for stress management and for today's presentation is to get support. When should you talk to a health professional about stress? Well, you should seek medical attention if you're feeling overwhelmed, having anxiety or irritability, depression, and panic attacks. Also, if you are using drugs or alcohol to cope, or if you have thoughts about hurting yourself, your primary care provider can help you by offering advice, and if needed, refer you to a therapist. Tell your friends and family if you're feeling stressed, since they may be able to help you access the resources you need. Although stress is a normal part of our life, if it doesn't go away and or if it keeps getting worse, you want to reach out and seek professional help. Talk with your primary care provider about how you are feeling to help you access the resources you need. Online therapy is also a great convenient time saver for those of us that live very busy lives. I also wanted to share some resources that are available to you. First and foremost, please call 911 if you or someone you know is in immediate danger, or go to the nearest emergency room. Okay, I'm sure we all know that. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is also available. Call 1-800-273-TALK, and the lifeline is also available at 1-888-628-9454. If you prefer using web services, you can access the Lifeline chat on the web at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. The Lifeline is free. Confidential crisis services that are available to 24 hours, 7 days a week will be available to you. The Lifeline connects people to the nearest crisis center in the Lifeline National Network. These centers provide crisis counseling and mental health referrals. Another great resource is the Crisis Text Line. Text the word home, hello, or start to 741741 to get connected with services. The Crisis Text Hotline is also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week throughout the U.S. The Crisis Text Line serves anyone in any type of crisis, connecting them with a crisis counselor who can provide support and information. And once again, actually, that website, if I didn't mention, is www.crisistextline.org/text slash us. Excuse me. If you guys need that, I can be more than happy to place it in the chat. All righty. And we also have some additional resources. Um, there is also a designated crisis line for veterans. You can reach the Veterans Crisis Line by calling 1-800-273-TALK and press 1 or text to 838-255. If you prefer web services, you can access the Veterans Crisis Chat on the web at www.veteranscrisisline.net. Now, like I said, if any of you guys need these resources, please just drop your email in the chat box, and I can go ahead and send that to you as well. Okay. We also have the disaster distress helpline. Okay. You can call 1-800-985-5990. The Disaster Distress Helpline provides immediate crisis counseling for people who are experiencing emotional distress related to any natural or human-caused disaster. The helpline is free, multilingual, confidential, and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And remember, these are only a few of many resources out there that you can access. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I want to conclude this presentation with a quote by William James. Mr. James was an American philosopher, historian, psychologist, and most importantly, the first educator to offer a psychology course in the United States. So let's go ahead and read this quote together. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. I hope that through this presentation, you've gained insight on how to remove or change the sources of stress in your life through having the right perspectives, and how to pick, I hope we also provided great tips on how to cope and better manage your stress. I want to thank you so much once again. This is Natushka Murray, Health Services Representative from the Florida Department of Health in Miami-Dade County. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Candace. It's been a pleasure once again.
Thank you so much, Natushka, for that insightful presentation and
You're
sharing these
welcome.
great tips, on being able to manage stress. I did really quickly wanted to answer Marcia's question. We will be sharing this recording on our YouTube page, and so I can definitely share that information once we send out the meeting evaluation email. And so at this time, Natushka, we'll go ahead and start our question and answer discussion. And so we did receive some questions from those of you who did register for this event. And so the first one that we have for you, Natushka, is what are the warning signs of stress?
Oh, great question. And thank you again, Candace, for having me. Um, what are the warning signs of stress? So, heaviness in your chest. You can experience increased heart rate or chest pain, shoulder, neck, or back pain, general body aches and pains, headaches, grinding your teeth or clenching your jaw, shortness of breath, dizziness, feeling tired and anxious, being depressed, having memory and concentration problems, compulsive behavior, and mood swings, excuse me. Hopefully
Thank
that answers your question.
thank you, Natushka. Yes, I think so. And it also goes back to how everybody was sharing in the chat box some of these signs that they experience as well. The next question we have that was sent in was, what can I do to help a friend or family member who is showing signs of being stressed?
Okay. Well, helping them to recognize there's a problem um, will help. You can help them address some causes of stress, if you're able to do that, if you have that type of relationship. Another way to help a family member or a friend is just to listen. A listening ear is always great. You want to always offer reassurance and practical support, and most importantly, support them in seeking professional help.
Thank you for that. The
Welcome.
next question we have is, what are some ways to deal with stress at work?
Hmm. All right. Some ways to deal with stress at work is um, you can try to avoid morning stress by, of course, being prepared the day before. You want to always understand your expectations at work. That will help you avoid stress at work, avoid conflict. Most importantly, we talked about this, staying organized, being comfortable, try not to do too much multitasking, concentrate one task at a time. You can always take a quick walk around the building or during lunch. You want to control perfectionism. And, controlling perfectionism is one of those external stressors, right? And you also always want to remember to act rather than react.
Thank you for that. So the last question that we had received from the registration, and then just as a reminder, if anybody has any questions they would like to ask our presenter today, you can put them in the chat box. But the last one that I had here was, why is it so important to manage stress?
Hmm, Thank you for that question. It's a very good question. It's important to manage stress because effective stress management helps you break the hold stress has on your life. So you can be, happier, healthier, and more productive. The ultimate goal is a balanced life with time for work, relationships, relaxation, and fun. and the resilience to hold up under pressure and meet challenges head on. So this is why it's important to manage stress.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And then on another note, you shared some helpful tips earlier on how to manage stress long term. How can I reduce my stress quickly in the moment?
Oh, okay. Um, the first tip I can provide is finding the sun. As you know, that vitamin D, it does help elevate mood levels. You can always give yourself a hand massage that will help immediately. You can count backwards. You can try counting backwards, stretching, even rubbing your feet over a golf ball. Um, you can breathe, take some time to breathe in and out. Slow, deep breaths can also help lower blood pressure and heart rate. Listening to music, and of course, taking a quick walk. If you need to get away for a moment, get away. All right.
Thank you so much for those helpful tips, being in the moment. And I did see, we did get another question in the chat box. Can certain foods, like unhealthy foods, cause stress?
Um, yes, yes. Sugars and starches, they do raise cortisol levels. So yeah, definitely stay away from processed foods, foods with you know, hydrate what is it, the trans fats, too much sugar, all those things can cause effects to the body, which will cause stress. I hope that answers your question, Daria.
And then Natushka, I'm seeing another one saying, can you please send us a list of the tips you provided today? And I was going to say, Natushka, is it
Mhm.
okay if we send out the presentation slides to everybody
Yes,
who attended? Okay, perfect.
yes, sure, sure. The only thing is some of the tips will not be in like the picture, it'll be in the notes, if anything. Does that work or
We can work to get it
okay,
in one PDF and then we'll send that out to everybody.
sounds good. Okay,
Okay, so
thank
at
you.
this time, I'll give it another minute. If anybody else has any other questions they would like to add, we are receiving a lot of great comments, Natushka, great
Oh,
information, very informative.
yeah.
And yes, you did answer the question, so we really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. I hope you all have a stress-free day and weekend. And yeah.
And so at this time, I am going to share that I'm putting in the chat box. We do have an evaluation link to go ahead and complete, just so we can build, further feedback for future events. And so I did share that in the chat box. And then I also wanted to share with you that we are planning our next Healthy Happens Here series webinar for November related to the holidays and healthy eating. And then I also wanted to share that we will have our Eat Fresh series Facebook Live event. Our next event will be hosted on Friday, December 3rd at 12 p.m. And this is where the Consortium Kitchen goes live, and we're going to share a cooking demonstration also as it relates to the holidays. And so you'll learn more about nutrition, healthy eating, and healthy lifestyles. And also, for some of you, maybe you want to check out a past webinar, please make sure to visit healthymiamidade.org to receive the latest updates from the consortium on our Healthy Happens Here series. And we'll also be sharing the chat box the evaluation link. And so we just ask if you take a couple of minutes to complete that. And we thank you again for joining us today. And we hope you have a great stress-free afternoon. Thank you so much for joining.